Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Joanie O'Hanlon. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mighty Pete.
Oh, listen, great to have you on the show. This has been one I've been looking forward to. So, Joanie, tell us, who are you, what do you do, and where are you from?
Gosh, where to begin? My name is Joanie O'Hanlon. I'm 36 years young. I am living in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland, happily married to Emmett, who is just my godsend and my rock, and he's just an incredible man. And we are raising two beautiful boys, a soon-to-be 3-year-old boy. He is crazy, second child syndrome, and a 4 3/4. So an almost 5-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. And our biggest boy is starting primary 1 in September. So there's a lot of change for the good, a lot of emotional milestones to go through, but that's the stage of life I'm at right now in the parenting journey. And insofar as career, I am a mentor and high performance coach to women predominantly, and I absolutely love it and just feel so blessed for my life, Pete.
Oh, wow. I love it. I mean, I love that even you're saying there's so much change going on at the moment and there's so much. And I mean, the journey for you, are you where you're supposed to be now? What's going on right at this time?
Well, I know it sounds cliched to say this, but I do believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it's funny that you would ask that, because I was chatting to my husband just the other day and I said to him, imagine you had gone and taken a different path in life. We wouldn't have our 2 babies now. We would probably be with different people. We might not even have children. Where would you be? Where would I be? And sometimes I like to have these really deep philosophical chats, Pete. It's a Pisces thing, I think. I just really, really love to ponder over thing, and it helps me get in the state of gratitude whereby I just look to what I have and just feel so blessed for every perceived wrong decision, or every road that I've taken that maybe didn't serve me at the time, every single incident and accident and blooper and every great moment. It all leads us to where we're at right now. And I think when you can look to life like that, it just makes it so much sweeter and helps us not take it so seriously, just to be grateful for where we are. So yes, I do feel, to answer your question, I am definitely in the right place now, and I've gone maybe on a bit of a detour to get here, but it's been a beautiful trip.
I love your take on that. So, I mean, even the stuff that maybe, you might say, well, it wasn't the best thing or something else has gone on. I mean, you consider that to almost be part of the journey, right? That's sort of the thing that's all making you up towards where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to high performance coaching and personal development and mentorship, a lot of people are misled and think that's pie in the sky stuff, and we have to be real to an extent and acknowledge that life can be a bumpy trail, but you can choose to live on the side of life where you're more leaning into the positive side and say, well, that happened, it wasn't ideal, but look where I'm at. And always, as we say so well in Ireland, count your blessings. We all go through trials and tribulations, and we have celebrations, and everything is a mixture. But it's great to be able to reflect at the end, just on how far you've come. And I do that often. I like to stop and pause. I like to enjoy the moment. I'm more present now in my life in my 30s than I was in my 20s or than I've ever been. I just love to stop and really take it all in and appreciate where I'm at, appreciate those I love around me, and everybody who comes across my path and me on theirs. It's really beautiful to be a part of other people's lives and to impact people's lives. And I feel it's a real honor to do that and to share my outlook in life with other people. And that is, life's a journey, it's a trip, enjoy it. And don't take it so seriously. Honor the times that are good and honor the times that are bad, but concentrate on focusing on the good ultimately, and you will get more of that.
No, that's very, very powerful. So tell me, what does Fire in the Belly mean to you?
Fire in the Belly. When I first heard that was the name of your company, your podcast, I just thought, that is so epic. That is really, it's really cool. Like when you really, really want something, I'm sure there are people listening to this and you want something and you have that burning desire. I just see a flame, obviously. But when you have that heat under you to go and get what it is that you desire, that's a fire in the belly. That's, to me, a fire in the belly is a heated desire that is so strong that it's the force that pulls you out of bed in the morning, and you're not being pushed through life anymore, but something greater than you is pushing you out there towards your greatness. And to me, that's what fire in the belly is. And you're such a good representative of that saying, Pete, because you live with that grit, and you're so impressive in so far as everything that you've done and that you do, and the value that you bring to people's lives, and the impression of increase that you leave. Everyone I talk to who knows you says the same thing. He's such a really lovely, lovely guy. But also because you have that burning desire to be, do, and have more. It's such a great mix. So fire in the belly. I couldn't think of a better tagline for what you do. I love it. It's brilliant.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Thank you.
Oh, it's the truth. It's such an amazing tagline. I'm all for that. I think when you have that clarity in your business, it speaks volumes. You don't need to stand up and give a big long elevator pitch. This is what I do, and confuse people with your delivery. It's like fire in the belly. It is what it is. Anybody ambitious understands the meaning of what it takes to have, and what it means to have fire in their belly.
So what's your heated desire then, Joanie? What's your thing?
My heated desire, gosh, these questions are good. I want to live life to my fullest potential, impacting the lives of others, so that they too, through having met me and coming to know me, it sets them on the path to live to their fullest potential. And this starts at home for me. It starts with impressing upon the lives of my children and my husband just the best version of myself that I can be. Now, this is a work in progress, people. Obviously, nobody is perfect. And I'll be the first to admit my flaws. But in this last 24 months, I have really done a lot of self-study and improved a lot on those flaws, or perceived flaws. Everything is perception, isn't it? It's like my husband says when we have an argument, I'm not perfect, but I'm not far off it. It drives me mad, but it makes me laugh at the same time. So yes, and I've lost the train of thought of the question, Pete. Sorry.
No, you were saying that just about the heated desire, and it's very common actually, because people get so wrapped up in their own heated desire, the passion for what they do. It is funny, because you lose, you elevate up and you actually lose sense of what you were talking about. It's going, what was the question? Where am I?
Because these big, deep, like the depth of the ocean questions that you give, it's very easy to get lost in them. That's not a question that you're just going to get asked any old time, just on a Wednesday. But my heated desire, it's living through my passions and doing it unapologetically and fearlessly. And the coaching, the mentoring, the mentorship of women, coupled with creative writing passions of mine that I'm working on as well, which it scares me to lean into these huge goals. But that's what I teach. So therefore, that's what I must do against all odds, is to set in stone in my mind the belief that I can achieve it. And I've become well versed in this after so many years of practice. The self-belief didn't come naturally. I had to reprogram a lot of the old programming as such. There were a lot of limiting beliefs stacked up against me in my mind. You can't do that. You can't achieve this. Like nobody has done this. And what makes you think that you can do this? So, being able to obliterate those negative limiting beliefs and just push those paradigms out of the way, and have these results that stick. I mean, when you learn how to do this is not something which every single day you're going to retain this information, unless you every single day study yourself. That's what I do, because I understand how easy it is to go back into bad habits and get immersed in all that again, and the circumstances that come from that. So every day I seek to self-improve and teach this to my students as well, because they have all the same issues, a lot of the same issues that I have had, and they see me and I see myself as 10 steps ahead of them, not better than them, or I don't perceive anybody in this life to be better than anybody. I only worship one source, and that is it. I look to everybody as equal, and we all have the same capabilities. We may not all have the same belief system, but for me to instill in my female community, in my clients, the self-belief through the study that I share with them, it's just incredible. There's nothing quite as rewarding as seeing someone's life being shaped as they go towards their goal fearlessly. And that includes my children. Of course, I said it a minute ago, my children, teaching this to them so they don't have to just fit in. They can be the round peg in the square hole if they want to be, as long as they're happy and understand the workings of their mind and they're healthy and they've got that good little happy chap smile on their face, then I feel like I'm winning the day. Everything is a bonus aside from that.
I love that. It's beautiful. And tell me, you mentioned there almost like sort of, I'm going to call it maybe past Joanie and the Joanie now, you know, and you're saying, you know, some clients, and I think that's probably quite common. You want to help people who maybe have been going through a journey you've maybe been on, or that's the point of a mentor, right? That you've actually, you know, you're maybe a step or two ahead, or you've experienced certain things. Describe to us Joanie past and Joanie now. What's changed? What would someone from the outside see different in you?
I choose not to dwell too much on past Joanie because I just don't see the point in dwelling too much on the past. I do honor it. Like I said, I like to honor the journey. I honor it for a little bit and then I go straight to the positive predominantly. But she had her struggles and I was wearing a social mask a lot of the time. And I grew up in the era of all the social media channels exploding. I remember being in university in Jordanstown and somebody called me over to their computer and they were like, check this thing out. It's called Facebook. You can see into people's lives. They post pictures. They say what they're doing, where they're going, if they're in a relationship or it's complicated or all this. And I was just like mind blown. I'll never forget that day. But I think, you know, to be in my early 20s and for all this to unfold, a lot of women my age may be able to relate to this. And men, when I say that was quite challenging from a mental health perspective to be caught up in the throes of these platforms where all the comparison began for a lot of people. And, you know, we had to learn how to deal with this, but there was no textbook to say, here's how you cope with if your life doesn't look as Instagrammable as somebody else's. Do you know what I mean? So just being able to look back, I'm 36 now, I've acquired the self-confidence, which is just like, I don't actually care what anyone thinks of me. And I don't mean that in a way that's disrespectful towards others. I want to leave an impression of love and increase on the lives of everyone that I meet if I can. I'll do my best to make everybody feel good around me, and I'll do my best to notice their good qualities and to shine a light on what is special and unique about them, because everybody has something special and everyone is unique. But the work I've had to do in myself to get to this point, there's been so much work. Like the limiting beliefs, Pete, they were so deeply ingrained. And a book that I've just finished reading, and of course you've probably read it, is The 4 Agreements. And I've read it on numerous occasions. And I've had to break a lot of those agreements. And I've had to become, I think the first agreement he talks about in the book is to be impeccable with your word. I had to go back and retrace through my past life, what were my belief systems? What did I convince myself that was true for me? In what box did I put myself? And I had to go back and break all those agreements and realize that I can do anything. I can absolutely do anything. I grew up in a family where Mummy was a teacher at the time. She's a retired teacher now. And my dad is self-employed and was self-employed in the same business back then. You know, 6 children. We weren't poor, but we weren't wealthy either. We were at times, you know, it was tight for them. They made it happen. And it wasn't always easy growing up in a house of that many children. It was like a shout to be heard scenario. And I just have to laugh when I tell people about the amount of times that I was standing outside the bathroom, like, let me in, please save some hot water for me. You know, it was just crazy times at times. And then the bickering and the squabbling that goes on. I think a lot of people who grow up in a big household of a lot of siblings can identify with, as an adult, sometimes that it can kind of seep into your 20s, your 30s, that feeling of, I matter, don't I? Doesn't what I say matter? Like, I'm here. You want to show your strengths to the world, but maybe you feel like, oh, I'm just one a number. And my parents love me and I adore them. And there's no issue there. But when I kind of trace back to my childhood, I can see all the pieces that formed Joanie from the past. Well, Joanie probably 3-4 years ago when I was at my lowest point. And on the outside, on the surface, I was just a happy-go-lucky person because that was the social mask. Now, in many ways, I am a happy person, and I was a happy person, but I was having a lot more bad days back then than I was good days. And through my 20s, I totally winged it. I went to university. I'm telling this story all back to front, but that's okay. I went to university in my 20s and just basically was another lemming. I just did what all the other kids were doing. We went to class sometimes, we went to the pub, we had fun. We didn't really care about retaining that information, or well, I can't speak for all the other students, but I was like, I'm here to live my life. This is fun. I knew that I would do something in the field of writing or communications and public relations. And when I look back then, I kind of blundered through my 20s to quite a large extent, just questioning my capabilities. Am I good enough? I always had that inferiority complex, Pete. And a lot of people can't believe this whenever I tell them about this, because I know I'm confident now, but I've worked on it and I continue to work on that every single day. The inferiority complex that I had throughout my 20s was really, really brutal. So I had to work on that and realize I don't need to feel any less of a person than her or him. And I count and I can make massive impact on the world. So managed to get through my 20s, the house parties, university, traveling, just like we all do, all the fun stuff. And as I began to mature into my later 20s and met my husband, got married, evolved in business, began to lean more into personal development and self-discovery, I realized I had a bit of an awakening and my awareness just completely shifted, and I could see myself on a completely different scale. It was a different landscape, and I realized not only, Joanie, do you matter, but you are so, so powerful and you can achieve anything. So I had to break a few agreements in my little old mind to begin to see myself as a star. And I do, every day I see myself as, you're a star. You can do anything. But to get to this point and to give myself that kind of a pep talk, it took a lot of mental work, and it was mentally taxing, but it's the most incredible work that I've ever done, because now I've changed the programming. I no longer speak to myself with the harsh internal dialogue that was going on, you know, as you say, Joanie, from the past.
Well, I mean, well, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I think that'll resonate with a lot of people, you know, and it's beautiful to see the journey that you've been on and continue to be on, obviously, as we all are, you know, in this sort of journey right through. You mentioned, you know, sort of those periods of changes and choice, you know, what sort of, what made you change or decide to change? You know, what's going to resonate with other people out there?
Well, I just think back to when I was a child, and I used to always look up at the sky and just think and wonder, the world is so big. And I just remember this feeling of wonderment. And I think the shift occurred in me really when I became a mother, and I began to tap into those memories and see myself as a little infant. And memories started to come back, Pete. And I started to realize that I was very much a domesticated human. It's so obvious. I've read the 4 Agreements because I've just been listening to it for days and days and days. If anyone hasn't read it, I would recommend it. But that's what happens. We become domesticated. Just as an animal is domesticated, you begin as a little infant, a little baby, and you're perfect. You don't care what anybody thinks, how you're perceived. You have no fear. And, you know, look at a regular 2-year-old, they're smiling, they're happy, they're covered in dirt. And then we become, as we get older, our minds change, our bodies change, hormones, and we begin to become this disheveled version of what is a perfect person. And I think as I began to become more mature and motherhood changed me, I'm sure you can agree, Pete, fatherhood, it must do the same. We're not the same.
It broke me.
And then it rebuilt you, and it will build and re-break. It will rebuild and break, and so on and so on.
Every day is like 50 moods all thrown together for good measure, from the very highs to the very lows. So yes, it will. It certainly does change you, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but it made me look at life from through a new lens, from a totally different perspective. And I just began to realize, Joanie, there is a whole big world out there still. That little girl who looks up at the sky in wonder, she's still there. She's not gone. This sounds really emotional and cliched, Pete, but you asked the question, so I'm going to give you the answer. I just started to really look at everything, and everything appeared just beautiful around me again. I realized that little child, that playfulness, that love for life, you know, the kind that people have before responsibilities, it is still there. She is still there. And all the responsibilities and all the comparison, and as I talked about, all the social media pressure, which I had let in, the seeking to be perfect, wanting to make such a difference in the world, that it really mattered to me was I liked. And if someone didn't like me, it pissed me off, because I thought, I'm a really nice person. What is wrong with that person? And then I realized that's all wrong too. You know, this is not the way this thing works. And we come in and out of people's lives for a reason. Some people mix like oil and water, and that's okay. I just grew up and I began to accept that, you know, life can be whatever I want it to be, and not to get so hung up on the assumptions of other people and what they may or may not think of me, because at the end of the day, who knows? And really, who cares? If we're living a life of purpose and we're being present and we're actually realizing our full potential and forgiving ourselves for our past mistakes, a bit of a grand awakening, it can occur. And a lot of people are, I feel they're still stuck in that in-between stage. They feel, for me, it was a feeling of feeling off kilter, out of alignment, and not quite knowing what was wrong. But my results at that time were stagnant across different areas of my life that mattered. So my business life, on the surface, successful, yes, wearing a social mask in order to make sure that, you know, nobody really knew that I was crumbling a little inside, because things weren't growing as I wanted them to grow. They were quite stagnant. I was leaning into different things and trying different things in and around my purpose, which is serving women through coaching, writing an ebook for the first time, getting that up on Amazon, different things. That was scary, but a great learning curve. But I was doing all these different things, which all are form a piece of the puzzle now. I know now why I was doing all these different things, but it was really scary to go there, to crash through those, oh my gosh, will I do this? Will I conduct this new project when I'm not really sure what I'm doing? But I was at a stage in life where I was stuck. I had to start and do and try new things. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because crashing through that fear on every occasion has led me to where I'm at now. But when you're in that feeling of being stuck, as I'm sure people watching this can empathize with, you do have to take drastic action to get unstuck. And the problem is, a lot of people don't know how. So being stuck emotionally, as I had been in and around that time, this was 2 years ago when it came to a head, and I said, enough. My babies were smaller. The baby of the family must have been 1 at the time, and his brother just about 3. And I was still breastfeeding, and, you know, it was all the hormones, Pete. I'm not going to go into it all, but sleepless nights, low confidence, static results in business, knowing I had more in me, but not knowing how to express this. And then the frustration that came from that. When I had gone to college, I studied journalism at a master's degree level, wondering why where's the big, you know, this is meant to be a big thing. I've got a master's degree. Where's the reward? You know, it's all, I came to realize a lot of it's a big lie. Everything we're told in the education system. And my undergrad had been in public relations, which I can understand now why everything has evolved and led me to where I'm at now. But at that time, my results, they were stuck. The mechanism, to me, it felt jammed. And through everything that I had done that I'd been proud of, I still couldn't understand why I was stuck at this point in my life. So the best of me, I wasn't showing up as the best of me for my husband, for my children. So there was the emotional ceiling, the financial ceiling, and that things were capped. And because of my emotional state, I could actually see things slipping away. And from a social point of view, insofar as I was feeling misplaced in my social circle. I was feeling like, is there anybody out there who feels like this, who feels like me? Because if there are people who want to be, do, and have more and are feeling the frustration that I'm feeling right now, maybe they know what way I need to go to break free from this, but not knowing what way that was. And spiritually, just feeling so disconnected from, some call it energy, some call it God, universe, whatever. Everyone has their own persuasion when it comes to how they refer to that higher presence, but I call it God. I didn't have a connection. I felt so mismatched. I felt so separated from our creator, and I didn't even know it. I didn't realize just how far the plug was from the socket. And I just was meeting myself coming at around that time. Thankfully, everything has changed, and I'm working on myself every single day, and it has been and continues to be absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, wow. Do you think, I mean, do you think the gap has closed again between, that sort of mini Joanie there where you talked about the wonderment, and as you say, the different truths and stuff that go in, and I suppose my question is, are you in your true self right now, or is that something there that's a journey to get back to the true you and, who you are and the true self?
I think, that's the problem. A lot of people aren't living as their true selves, but it wasn't my fault. It's not their fault. It's like I say all the time, we are programmed to be, act, think in a certain way. And when you have that light bulb moment where you just start to entertain a new idea, is this really what I want? That's the start of a beautiful journey inside your mind to uncovering the person you really are. And I just hope for anybody who is stuck that they have that moment where something clicks, because that really is the spark. That is the fire in the belly, Pete. That moment of realization. I'm so much more than what I give myself credit for, and I can change. I can do this. So for me, it was really that shift in my awareness which began to change everything. And then I saw myself as a clean sheet of paper, and I could rewrite the script. I could write about the kind of woman I wanted to become and become her. And that's what has happened. When I put pen to paper for the first time, when I started to feel that wonderment again, that childhood feeling, and I began to commit my thoughts to paper, that's when I began to get unstuck financially, emotionally, spiritually, socially. In my marriage, I was just showing up in every way as a better person. And I'm just so grateful that throughout the whole thing, this whole unfolding, my husband he's just such a solid rock beneath my feet. And throughout all the tantrums and all the tears, because there's a lot of that, there's a lot of tears and snots when you're figuring out the person you really are and who you want to be. He has just been there the whole time, just supporting me through the process. And he's done a lot of that himself as well. So yes, you can get back to that. You can tap back into anybody can tap back into the wonderment of their childhood. And I would just say, start tomorrow with a clean slate, or start tonight even, going to bed, just thinking back to when you were a little child and you had no responsibilities. What would life look like tomorrow if you could carry that feeling into tomorrow? Because it's the responsibilities that drag people down, and it's the longing to be seen as someone who's making an impact on the world, somebody who is successful. And that comes from, I know that a lot of people online these days think there are a lot of narcissists out there on Instagram and Facebook, and yes, maybe so, but they've been forced into that narcissism. Society has shaped people out there saying, pay me some attention. It has shaped these empty vessels of people who just want the validation, because that's what we're taught from no age, from our infancy, when we're said, you'll be a good boy or a good girl if you do this. And then we look for the reward because the good girls and the good boys get the reward. So we're seeking validation from a young age. So next thing comes social media. It carries through onto all the platforms. and it prevails through life. So really, I think if anybody sits down and for me and takes a look at their life as it is and realizes, oh my gosh, do I really need the validation of others the way I thought I did? It turns out you don't. You need your own validation, and that self-love that can only come from within. And I know it's a term that is thrown about a lot. Self-love, what does it even mean? There are a lot of overused phrases that we hear people say, mentors, people in the high performance thinking space in this industry. But when you really, really make yourself a project to unfold, you really can fall in love with yourself. And it starts from just tapping back into the essence of yourself as a little child. And I think for me, seeing a little photograph of myself as a little infant child when I was pregnant sparked that moment of self-love. And I thought, look at her, that perfect child, not a care or worry in the world, didn't care if her hair was messy, if she was having a bad hair day, or if people liked her. And I think that's a sweet spot for a lot of people to improve, is to start by looking at themselves as the beautiful, perfect, pure little child that they are, because they are still that person, just with a lot of junk that's been piled on, which they didn't ask for.
Talk to us about, I mean, that sort of mini Joanie. If we were to meet her today, who would we meet?
If you were to meet mini Joanie, you would meet a little girl who was as deep as the ocean. I love the big questions. And I still do. I didn't like, that things were just the way they were because somebody said it. Why is that thing called what it is? Why is that? Okay, so this object is called a fork. Why? Why can we not call it something else? I would question everything. Who said? Like, this is in my little imagination, the imagination of a little kid. I would think things like, who makes the rules anyway? Okay, so people work in a job and then they come home but why? And I would look at the world in a way that was, when I think back now, it was absolutely incredibly intelligent for somebody of that age, but kids are intelligent and we just don't give them the credit oftentimes. But I was asking those questions. I was analytical insofar as I would question the status quo. And I was very, very deeply, very sensitive. And I just used to always wonder, how does the world work? I used to always look up and think, I'm so small. This place is so big. And I wonder what the people are like in other countries. And there was really no limitation there. I was a kind little girl. I craved attention because I grew up in a house with a lot of other children. So I craved attention. And I remember as a child, anytime I had one-to-one with my mother was just the most precious time, because she didn't have a lot of time for that. So I'd sneak up out of bed at maybe 10 o'clock and cuddling beside her on the sofa while she was doing a crossword or watching the news or something, just to have that time with her. But yes, very creative, love to write, love to sing, love to just play in my imagination and dream about being famous one day. But I think every child is like that. Now they all want to be YouTubers. But yes, I was like all of us, I was a perfect child.
Were you the favorite child? I'll get you into some deep water here,
I think she loved us all equally in lots of different ways, with just that little bit of a favorite corner for me. No, I can't say that. No, I can't say that. No, my mother, just an exceptional woman who, it wasn't easy for her, Pete. She really struggled mentally at times to raise all of us. 2 boys, 4 girls, all different ages, 2 families really. She had my big sisters and then a big age gap, and then she had myself, my twin brother and my little brother. So I'm a twin as well. He's 6'5", very, very quiet, very, very shy. We're very different people. And I refer to him very much as a gentle giant. He's just a big, lovely teddy bear, and I adore him. So yes, I'm a twin as well.
There you go. Didn't know that. Learn something new every day. Tell me, just to close off on the last bit, are you an ugly crier? Or are you a nice crier?
An ugly crier.
You
Oh
referred
God.
to snots and crying. It was like, yeah, that
I'm
kind
just
of
thinking of
sense.
just to testify, I don't watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But I know that, well, I did watch it. It was my guilty pleasure a few years ago before I stopped binging on Netflix to read more books that would help enhance my results in life. Still was partial to a little Keeping Up with the Kardashians a few years ago, but no longer. But I know that's where the ugly cry conversation started, with Kim's ugly cry. So yes, my cry is absolutely, in Northern Irish terms, wild looking. I have the worst crying face ever, and I really, really do rip the ass out of it. When I cry, people know, and my husband, he just he knows to make himself scarce for a little while until I sort myself out.
Get over
But it's
yourself.
good. It's really good to let the tears
Mm.
flow, have the ugly cry, and not take yourself so seriously and just get on with it, isn't it? What about you?
Mm.
What's your crying face like?
It's not great now. I'm yeah. I cry at weird stuff. Most of my wife generally says I'm totally emotionally detached in so many things. It's like, but then there's certain little things that just catch me. It's like, okay. And it's generally moments of vulnerability or when people need help. I don't know why, and yeah, but I can be completely insensitive in other ways. But there you go. So no, it's always fun to see see which way people are and the way they approach things. But
Yeah, I think I cry more lately at just the beauty of the world and possibility. And I just sometimes feel so moved by things that before I would have taken for granted. I had the ugliest cry last week during meditation, Pete. I had my earbuds in, I just had a little lie down on the sofa. It was a beautiful morning, and I just was like, and the tears were streaming. And yes, it was not my most proud moment. I would imagine if it had been recorded, I would be quite quickly looking to hide that footage somewhere. But that kind of cry is just the best cry, because that's when you are closer to, I believe, much closer to source, much closer to the higher being, to our creator, where we can work as a co-creator with this force of nature to make amazing things happen. And I see tears as a release. That's how we shift the energy. And yeah, tears are really good. And I think, well, I hope more men realize that it's okay to cry. And I think I'm doing a good enough job at letting my little boys know that if you need to cry, that's okay. Boys can have a little cry as well. And I hope a society at large that, this is a message that is heard and understood, that men need to cry. My husband lost his mother in February, and I would maybe love to see him cry that little bit more, because then I would know that he's letting that go. He's exercising and he's looking after himself, and that's his release. But tears are good, and men need to cry just as much as us women.
No, I get that. And I think it's, as you say, it's very important to, and it's a version of your true self, right? That it's not being consciously held. It's
Yeah.
quite something.
Yeah.
I want to link back. You used a term there, and just because maybe not everyone will be used to it, I suppose, but the term was, it was jammed mechanism. Can you sort of describe what that means to you, or how somebody else would maybe understand that?
So I love to describe things with anything that is visual or a good analogy that really helps me best internalize the information, and sometimes others too. When we are feeling, I'll speak from my own experience, but when I'm feeling off kilter or out of alignment or just feeling a little bit meh, that's when I start to question what is going on here? What am I doing to jeopardize, feeling as I would like to be feeling, and that is in alignment, happy, with a clear mind and on track for, creating the life that I want and bringing value to other people's lives. What is jamming the mechanism as such? And oftentimes that is toxic thoughts that I know, okay, my awareness has pointed it out many times. These thoughts are not, they're not good. insofar as where you're going and where you want to be, they are jamming the mechanism. Thoughts of maybe self-doubt, which they don't creep in as much now because I do the work to make sure I stay focused on what is good and what is working. But, you know, we're human people. This is something we're going to be crafting for the rest of our lives. So yes, if there's something seeping in that it's just not good, I just choose to reject that and carry on with what I know is going to serve me and others best, and that is to not entertain thoughts that are derailing me from what's important at that time. It could be anything in lifestyle. It could be eating the wrong foods. If you want to think clearly and you don't want to have that brain fog and you want to be on task and alert and feeling full of energy, the poor food choices are going to be jamming the mechanism as such. You're going to feel tired, lethargic, all that stuff. Procrastination, jamming the mechanism, scrolling through Facebook platforms, comparison, inferiority complex, all the things that, you know, bleed into your thinking through those actions. They are all jamming the mechanism. They're not allowing you to stay connected to where it is you want to go. They are taking you off the path as such. So when I talk about jamming the mechanism, that is really what I mean. It's anything that is distracting my purpose and taking me away from being on purpose.
That's so powerful, isn't it? You know, as you said, living a life on purpose is quite something, you know, to be in that state. Bit of a random one. I mean, what are you aware of what you're capable of?
These questions are gold. Yes, I am aware that I am capable of anything that I put my mind to. And it's so nice to affirm that and say that out loud, and to be able to share this with the ladies who I'm mentoring. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again because we can't hear it enough times. I am capable of anything that I put my mind to. And it's so important that everybody, that each individual listening to this knows that they are also capable of whatever they put their mind to. Like, I've got some big dreams, Pete, and I've had to do the work mentally to shrink them really small so that there's not too much, you know, mental real estate up there just crowding out my mind. I have to see these as small, attainable goals rather than what I first perceived them to be as being massive, scary, lofty goals that how's this little girl gonna do this? So I am fully aware of the fact that I can do anything, but it has just come to my attention that is something that I ought to be affirming more and more every day. And I want to create a habit out of thinking this regularly. So I'm really glad you brought that to my attention.
Do people get you?
No, some do. And that's okay. I've always been a bit of a square peg in a round hole because I've always questioned life. I've always liked the hard questions. And I just never really, although I went along with it for quite some time, came to a stage where I just threw in the towel. I said, I'm unemployable. I can't work for somebody. I can't do this. I'm too free-spirited here. Why isn't everyone free-spirited? Why are you going along with this? Like, I look at people and they're working in a job that they hate, or maybe that they don't hate, but they're not that fond of, and it's 9 to 5 or whatever their set hours are. And literally somebody is telling them what to do and they're okay with that. I just can't get my head around it. And I don't mean that in any way that is disrespectful to, you know, everyone is different. Everyone has different likes and interests and passions, but a lot of people are settling for mediocrity. And I cannot settle for that. And because I'm so outspoken about it, and I speak about it on my Instagram and Facebook, when I'm on there, if I'm going live, it's scary sometimes to put yourself out there when your belief system is very different from others. But I can't not do it because this is me. And people are only going to hear and see more of it as I grow in confidence. I'm just going to continue to coming out and asking the hard questions. What do you really want? get people thinking, what would your life look like? How would you feel tomorrow if you had no responsibilities? What kind of a person would you be? To get, like, the questions you ask, Pete, are so emotive. They really get people thinking. Sharing the idea that multiple sources of income is something we want to normalize. Talking about money, like flick on the kettle. I put up a post about money quite recently. Talking about money should be as easy as saying flick on the kettle. Now, that might have pissed off a lot of people, because they might think, well, what would she know about my situation? But that's not the purpose and the intent in putting that up. It's to spark in that person an interest to learn more so they can best understand it, and then they can create more of it for themselves. It's always from a serving place. I always want to help people, and the only way to do that is to kind of sometimes just give them a little nudge, a little prod, and just say, you know, entertain this idea. I dare you. They might not like it at the start, and they could be quite allergic to it. But that's what I mean when I say I've come to the stage of life where I don't really care what people think. I'm happy when I'm loving the people I love and helping the people who want to be helped by me, and doing a good job in what I do, because I know that what I'm doing is giving value to the world, and I want to help people. I really want to help people as I have been helped. And the reason I lean into the female audience is because that's my family over on Instagram. My following is 99% women, so it makes sense that, you know, these are the people who I help, because these are the people who come to me for help. And any man who wants help, I love men. Men are fantastic. I've got a great husband, a great daddy, got 2 little boys. I will signpost men to where it is that they can get the help if they're interested in what it is I talk about, and they want to study what it is I've studied and what I teach. I can do that. But it's such an amazing, freeing feeling, Pete, to not seek to fit the mold anymore. I don't want to fit the mold of the masses. It is not for me. And when I started showing up as who I really am, and stop trying to be this cookie cutter influencer, you know, talking about, you know, what everyone else is talking about because that's trending and, you know, it's going to get me more likes and followers. It does not speak to me. Perhaps I was going down that trail of thought before, because I thought, well, this is what you have to do. You're on this platform. What do people want me to talk about? No, what do I want to talk about? And if I'm going to isolate 2/3 of the audience, that's okay. I'm happy to polarize and freeze out the people who my information does not speak to. As long as I'm helping the people who really know this is where I ought to be and this is what I want more of, then I'm satisfied and that I'm helping them and I'm being my true self. And I'm working on it all the time and just sharing more and more of me and what I believe in.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing service, you know, to actually put that out there and to help others. Just interesting, you mentioned their confidence a couple of times. I mean, are you clear in this journey where you originally left your confidence and now that you've picked it back up again? I mean, was that something you were able to identify, you know, moments of time that eroded confidence? And I'm just wondering, you know, because that may be useful to people who are saying confidence or anxiety or frustration or all these things, you know, and where it could have been eroded or taken away from them and how they can get it back.
Looking back now, Pete, I think I lacked confidence from childhood right through my teenage years, all through my 20s. And maybe this speaks to some people, maybe it doesn't, but I winged it for a lot of those years. I think a lot of people will actually understand what I'm saying here, because there's no manual. There's no, this is how to be a teenager, this is how to be an adolescent, this is how to be an early 20-something. I think a lot of people, even though they look to be having all the success and doing everything right, they're winging it too. And I think that this is something that is gleaned throughout your life from experience, from trials and tribulations as well. I think a lot of people will know what I mean when I say you become more confident as the years go in your 30s. And I can imagine in my 40s, I'll be bulletproof. In my 50s, when I'm 90, I will just run around offending people, because I really at that stage will not I will not tolerate anybody who is not appreciating that what I'm saying has value in it. You know, I feel very confident in the way I share my message, but I think the real confidence ball, I picked that up as my children got a little bit bigger in my 30s, when they began to get past the newborn stage and I began to study myself and really understand what the workings of my mind look like. That for me was when it clicked. I realized through the teachings of Bob Proctor and a lot of thought leaders whose work I admire and respect and lean into, but predominantly Bob's, that's the material I'm working with right now. It helped me understand, because he explains it so well enough, I would say, even for an infant to understand. He explains it so very well, the workings of the mind. And I realized, wow, I can be, do, and have more. I can grow in confidence. I don't have to hold on to this feeling of inferiority anymore. And I decided to let those feelings gradually, to let them drift off somewhere very far away. It took persistent effort every day, showing up and doing my self-study. But it has been the most worthwhile thing, because I can look back now and I can track back to my childhood, my teenage years, all throughout my 20s, and I can understand where she was back then. Like, there's nothing I can do about it now. You know, there's no point in focusing on the past. It's let the dead bury the dead, as Bob Proctor would say. And that's, you know, it's powerful. It's nice to talk about it at, you know, certain intervals, because then we can see how far we've come. But because I like to focus more on the positives, I'll keep it short, looking back to Joanie from the past, who maybe at times didn't have this confidence. She just was like so many young people, just winging it, trying to find her place in the world and to matter and to impress her elders, as that is what is impressed upon us. You know, you want to be the top of the class, you want to make the sports team, you want to get into university, you want to, you know, you need to do all this. It's a lot of pressure on a young person. And yeah, I think a lot of people will probably identify with what it is I'm saying, when the confidence can be shakier throughout those stages of life. But into the 30s for me, motherhood really changed me. And that's when I decided, it was a decision, no more feeling like this. It's not serving me, and I want to change, and I'm going to change.
Well, no, I mean, that's what it's all about, and change and fair play. You've changed a huge amount, even in the short time I've known you. You know, it's been amazing to see the transformation. Tell me, I mean, well, you talk about source, you talk about co-creation, you talk about a number of things there. I mean, can I ask? I mean, where do you sit in terms of religion, spirituality, that side? Where's your source, if you like?
Well, I was raised as a Catholic growing up, but I was not the kind of girl who really wanted to go and sit in mass, and it was always very hard for me to do that. And I always had big questions. I would look up at the priest and think, why is there not a woman up this week? There was a man up last week. So I always questioned. And, you know, there are so many religions out there, and I believe that it's good to show an interest in all the different religions and thought leaders. I'm all for learning as much as I can, and then leaning into the fact that there is, in my opinion, I'm a believer in God. And I've always believed that all my life, even throughout times in my life where I felt tested or my mood was low and things weren't going as I wanted, I might not have felt the connection. Well, I didn't feel the connection that I feel now, but I always believed that there was a higher power, and that is God. And some call it energy in the universe. Some people are more inclined to look at it from the science side of things. And that's, again, as I say, each to their own. But yes, we are all put on this planet as a co-creator with God, in my opinion, and we're wearing this human suit, but we are a ball of energy. We're a mass of energy, and we're always for expansion and fuller expression. We are meant to achieve incredible things. And when you really sit down and question it, where is this all coming from? It can't just come from skin and bone, and it has to be something more higher powered than that. So this was a really heavy topic. When I started to really study this and get into this, Pete, I first thought, this is really heavy stuff. Do you know what I mean? But then so is what we're taught when we go to mass as little kids. It's all really heavy stuff. I thought, what makes me feel the best? And then I realized the study in terms of my self-study, finding out the kind of person that I am, studying thought leaders who share nuggets of information which they've gleaned from all sorts of books throughout the years, from the Bible to you name it. There's so many different books, documents, paper trails, and it all aligns when you sit down to study this information. Every thought leader, every person who's out there making impact on the world, the Bob Proctors, the Jack Canfields, all these people, a lot of it does track back to the Bible, to different sources of reference. So I'm an open-minded person. I'm not just for, well, this is the way and this is the only way. I'm respectful of my upbringing and I'm respectful of Catholicism, but then I'm also respectful towards other religions and institutions, because we don't know what we don't know. And I'm down for listening and learning about anything that anybody wants to share with me that is meaningful and impactful, because why would I cut myself off from information? An interesting life is a life where we gather information, and that's what makes it exciting.
That's true. I mean, are you clear now what your sort of purpose is in life, or what your mantra is, where you're going, what you're doing? Are you clear now?
I'm a lot more clear than I've ever been. And as we go through this transition where we seek to improve ourselves and achieve goals that perhaps scared us to the point of not even looking to them at all in the past, I'd done that. I thought, oh, should I go after this or should I leave it? I now know my main goal, the main priority in life, and that is to be the best mother that I can possibly be to my children is number one. And then when it comes to my service to the world, my gifts are in writing and mentorship. So I have to put this out there into the world, because this is what I was sent here to do. I really, really do believe, is to share these innate gifts. And anyone listening to this who you have that burning desire, fire in the belly, and you've more to share as well, dig deep and find out what that is. So I want to change the world through my writing. And I had put it in the back burner for a little while, but that's because I also love mentoring. I love sharing with other women, but I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't share my writing with the world, the projects that I hold in my heart, because I'm teaching women how to go after their huge lofty goals, these C goals, as Bob Proctor refers to them, the goals that excite you at the same time as scare you. They scare and excite you in equal parts. If you don't feel like throwing up a little bit when you think about this massive goal, it's not big enough, it's not worthy of you. So I do have a couple of projects going on, and I will see those projects through to fulfillment. And in my mind, I can see from the end I've been in the end, insofar as a scenario where the goal has been achieved. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just bringing the best of me to the party every day so I can help other people do that in their lives at the same time. So yes, I'm living life on purpose every single day. And I would say to anybody, if you feel out of alignment, just ask yourself the question, am I living my life on purpose?
Wow, it's a deep question for anyone to ask themselves, Where would we find Joanie in her full flow, her point of greatest creation?
So if you're looking for me online, you'll find me on Instagram mostly. Although what I'm finding as well is in full flow inside my home life and in my client life in those groups. But if you're looking for some content from me, you'll find me on Instagram. It's at I am Joanie O'Hanlon, and then the same for Facebook. I'm just starting to dabble about with Clubhouse and enjoying that as well. But I've come to realize as well, social media, it's there and it's great, and it's a great way to connect with people, but there are other things that this is a bit of an awakening that's happening right now within me as well. I'm realizing I'm good at it. I'm good at putting on the shop front through my stories and putting my grid together, and aesthetically, I'm quite pleased with how it looks. It's on brand, everything is right. But I'm finding the more I'm on my phone, the more depleted in energy I am, Pete. So I'm really being very selective in terms of how much, when I lift my phone, setting boundaries for myself. And that's something I intend to get better and better at, because that would kill the vibe of anybody who's creative and has passion projects they're working on. So I'm going to refine this, fine tune it, and enjoy what I'm creating on social media as the window for people to look in and, you know, see what I'm doing, how they can contact me and stuff. But I'm also going through a period of change now where I'm thinking I want to be on my phone so much less, because my children are so important to me. They're my everything. I don't want to miss a single second. So outsourcing as much of the promotional work to me is really, really important. So I'm going through a bit of a shift now in terms of evolving my marketing and how I show up on social media. But, you know, as they say, I'm on Instagram, so you can slide into the DMs. Yes, it's a horrible speak from the world of Instagram, but that's where I'm at. Another Instagrammable overused statement, but that's where people can make direct contact with me, and Facebook as well. And what I do is, for anyone who says, Joanie, do you know what, enough, I have to change my life. I see what you're doing here. You help women break through their ceilings, all the ceilings that I listed, mental, emotional, financial, all of them. This is what we're about. If they really, really want to change, we get on a call and we take things to the next level. And this is how they can then join our coaching program. We see on the call if we're fit, and if that's the way it works out, then I know I can serve this person when they're ready. I can make sure that they can achieve their goal and make sure that they do not just put it up on the shelf again, leave it for another few years to live to regret it. So yes, that's where you will find me on Instagram primarily. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So tell me, what's a bit of a guilty pleasure for you? You mentioned previously the Kardashians, but that life's moved on a bit from there.
I did not think we would be talking about like the Kardashians. Funny though. Guilty pleasure. I love a little takeaway on the weekend. So if we're looking to, you know, eating habits that would not pertain to the healthy lifestyle, which I do like to be healthy and look after my health and stay in shape and all the rest. Not just for the physical aesthetic side of things. I like to be focused, and I believe that we are what we eat. But partial to a wee pizza and a bottle of wine on the weekend. Guilty pleasures. I used to be a real night owl, Pete, Joanie, before. But every so often, I like to have a little like binge in front of the TV and catch up on a good documentary or something like that. And no more Kardashians. And just really just veg out and remember what it was like to, you know, be able to do that before children, when you could just lie and watch a box set all day. So, you know, maybe once in every few weeks, I'll do that. And just feel so badass for, you know, watching TV till 2 a.m. I know that's really sad, and it's probably not the answer you were thinking would be the most exciting for your podcast, but, you know, just a little night with the remote control and nobody needing me, and just feeling like in my bliss. This is what it was like before I was wiping bums and potty training and, you know, doing all that. So yeah, I also love, and this is not really a guilty pleasure, but I love the crack. I do love to have fun, and I have been known to, you know, be really good at putting on accents. Don't ask me to do any, but I've been, you know, known to be the girl who's like, you can do any accent, Joanie. That's amazing, and I love that. I just think it's fun to, you know, just sometimes just acquire an Aussie accent just for the crack. Like, why not? In the middle of having a chat with a friend, it's random, but it's fun. So you try it sometime. Just, you know, start replying to your friends in a different accent. It gets the crack going, and, you know, yeah, just try it. You might enjoy it.
It sort of explains also when I asked, you know, do people get you? You immediately said no.
No, of course they don't get me. No, I just love, you know, a life without the limitation that comes from the caring too much what people think. And I used to care. That was quite deeply ingrained in me. I used to care. I've tracked back to where that came from, and I have, you know, all those agreements, I have let them go, the agreements with myself from childhood. This is the person who I thought or think I was or am. I've just decided to let myself live to my full potential now, and uncovered that I'm still, like all of us, I'm still that perfect child who can go into her imagination and do anything she wants. And I believe that is true for all of us, because 2 years ago, Pete, I was not the person I am now. I was very, very broken and tearful, and there were a lot of ugly crying faces, and it was just not the best time of my life. and the cracks were starting to show, and I was at a point of desperation. I realized I cannot go on like this for 1 minute longer. Something has to change. So from that point of brokenness, that's where the magic really began to happen.
So what advice would you have for anyone, someone that's feeling that, all those, those moments of needing to change, that enough is enough? What advice can you give, or what would you advise now to people on how to turn their life around, really?
Again, a really good question. People settle, I feel, and this from my own perspective, and maybe some will relate to this, they settle with the mediocrity for so long. They become one with it. They think, well, this is normal. It's normal to be unhappy in my work. It's normal to be in debt, or it's normal to be a wee bit grumpy when you're this many years married or have children, or none of this is actually, it doesn't have to be normal. But when you're in that mental prison as such, it's very hard to recognize. You can't see that you're in it when you're in it. And if somebody wants to break free from this and they want to improve, the best thing that they can do, and again, it's a great question, but it's a difficult question. My suggestion, having just been only able to base this on what I've been through, is speak to somebody who can help you get out of the situation that you are in, and honor your thoughts and your feelings, but look within, and you will get a lot of answers subconsciously. It's amazing how many questions we can answer within without having to ask anybody else. And as you become more immersed in self-study and getting yourself out of the mental rut, you will begin to realize that you don't need to ask anybody, what do you think I should do? The answers will come to you. Now, obviously, when somebody is anxious and they're in this state, they might not listen for the first time if somebody says, just get a coach or get a mentor, or it's not always that easy for somebody who is riddled with anxiety to just say, oh, I'll just throw a few £1,000 at, a high performance coach. It is a gradual process. But my hope for anybody in that situation where I had been is to become aware of your thoughts, and when you get those, as I call them, divine downloads or guidance, to follow your guidance, because we're powerful people, we're powerful energy centers, and we will receive. When you listen with your heart and you become receptive to knowing that there's a higher power, you start to get the guidance that is required to take you to where you need to go. Like, this is very deep for this foundational. I'm trying to keep the answer foundational, but then again, it's a very deep question. Follow that innate guidance and trust it, and learn to trust it more and more with every day that passes. Because the problem in society that I see these days is that people, they don't trust themselves. They don't know that they have this innate wisdom, this inner coach. I love how Jack Canfield talks about the inner coach and versus the inner critic. We have this wisdom, this divine wisdom, this inner coach, this little voice of a mentor who shows up in your subconsciousness. Oftentimes you hear these messages as you're going to sleep or waking up in the morning, like it's like a whisper in your ear, go this way, or choose that way. And just begin to listen to these messages, which aren't just well, that was kind of weird. What was that? Trust in the fact and the knowingness that that is your innate wisdom. And if you listen to that and don't question it, you will get more and more of that guidance, and just to follow it. Trust yourself and never ask anybody else for their opinion. What do you think I should do? Because they're just winging it too. That's their perception. What do you think I should do about this business? Well, I don't think you should start this business because somebody did that last week and they failed. Well, what does that matter? When we trust our own unique guidance, that's where the real magic happens. And I hope that answers your question. But Pete, that was a really, like, that was a seriously meaty question.
Thank you. So,
You do have the best question.
well, it's always interesting to see the different sides. I mean, tell me what's something you're great at and what's something you're terrible at?
Something I'm great at. I'm great at writing and expressing myself through words. I'm great at seeing the core genius in other people and helping them bring that to the surface and recognize it and help them uncover their true potential. And I think that's because I've always been a good communicator, and I'm an expressive person, and I've always known the power of the spoken word and the written word. And I remember thinking back to childhood again, my mother, she shared with me a quote, and I can't remember who the quote is by, but it was, "The pen is mightier than the sword." And I've always held on to that, and I realize that is true every single day. I realize that to be more and more true. With words, we can change the world. The words we speak, the words we think, the words we commit to paper, the words we speak into other people. We can either speak belief into somebody, or we can completely tear that person down. And of course, we don't want to do the latter. We just want to, with our word, impress upon people the best love, energy, and support that we possibly can. So when I think about that in relation to what I'm good at expressing myself. Now I sound like I'm tooting my own horn, thanks, Pete. But I'm good at expressing myself through the written and the spoken word. And I just love making an impact on people's lives through being able to articulate something which they couldn't even think. And it's something I've oftentimes had teachers share with me growing up. You have a way with words. You're good at crafting a story. And that is true. That's something, and that is a belief. That's one of those agreements that I hold on to and will never let go of, because I've always been told that you have a way with words. That's an affirmation which for me has been ingrained in me since the moment in time that I can't even remember when I first heard it, but I know that that is true. And being able to use that gift, not just for, my own gain, but for others and my family, speaking belief into my children, reading to them, helping them to create, and sharing with them the power of the word. That is something that I'm good at. Something that I'm not good at. Gosh, what am I not good at? I'm an okay cook. I'm not brilliant. I can wing it in the kitchen, but I have been known to create a few disastrous banana breads through the lockdown scenario, and it's hit or miss. It's either going to be completely epic or an absolute massive fail. So yeah, but bad at anything, I'm going to be kind to myself here. I don't really think I'm bad at anything. Yes, I have some things in which I'm much better in terms of lending myself to that, but I'm going to be kind to myself here. I'm going to say I'm not bad at anything. And I don't believe anybody is bad at anything. I just believe that we are, stronger in certain areas than others.
Well, there's certain things are going to wind you up and just doesn't bring any love or joy, and that's okay too. Folding clothes, that would be right up there for me.
Oh yes, folding clothes. Yeah, that's anything to do with laundry. Ironing, I just don't do it. It's not that I'm bad at it, I just refuse to do it. I just think ironing is such a waste of life. Why, when you're put on earth for one spell, or maybe we're here again, who knows, we probably are, but do you really want to spend your days ironing? I think Mighty Pete has more important things to be doing in the world than getting the ironing board propped up and spending 8 hours ironing the whole house's clothes.
I assure you that doesn't happen. Interesting point though, that have you been here before, do you think?
Sometimes I feel that feeling of deja vu where I might question, this feels familiar. But being here before, I don't know. I don't think so. Unless I just have no recollection, or maybe I need to do a little bit more inner work to untap this. And it wouldn't be my zone of genius either, this area. Although because I'm open-minded, I would be open to talking to anybody who can share with me, how to find that out, how to go within and perhaps find out more about that. But I'm not quite sure about that. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think I've been here before and I've been a president or something, or I have, made a massive impact in the world. I feel because we are all energetic powerhouses, we are this incredible human suit, but we are boundless energy within. When you think about it, Pete, because this is what your questions do, which I love, we have to all have been here before. If we move on in life and we no longer occupy the skin and bone in this suit, as I call it, our energy lives on and it never is created or destroyed. Energy it always is, it always circulates, it has to take another form. So yeah, I'm quite sure I have been here before, but I need to dive deeper into that and find out a little bit more. And what did she do? What did she get up to?
Definitely. What's the nicest thing somebody could say about you, either to your face or behind you?
That I genuinely care for other people, and with my clients, they know I care deeply for their success, and I see them as an extension of my family. So that matters hugely. But on a more personal note, I think the best thing anyone could say about me is that I'm a great mother, and I'm perfectly imperfect. And I don't think we should ever strive to be perfect, but I do my best to be a great mom. And if anyone ever says to me, you're a great mom, or I really admire the way you're handling, raising those boys, that I think any parent will know well, it gets me right in my heart. I just feel like, wow, that person said I'm a good mom. It really does mean more than anything else. But to know that my heart is really in what I do, and to see the manifestation of somebody I'm working with achieve their goals, this really, really is amazing. To know that you're part of that person's success story. And it's like I say to the lovely women I work with, I want you to be a complete badass when it comes to taking on the world. I want you to get coached by the best people. I'm not going to put my arms around you and just try and hold on to you and make you be forever in my community. I want you to go off into the world and work with the best mentors, thought leaders, get into all the groups, be in and around all the best people who interest you. I have no lack or fear mentality when it comes to this. I want everybody I work with to exceed their greatest expectations and mine, and to go off and multiply my effectiveness times 1,000. Like, that's something I think a lot of people do harbor sometimes, that feeling of, oh gosh, lack, and we always want to be seen as the best of the best. I'm like, I just want everyone to go out there and do the best and be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. I'm actually the coach that'll kick somebody out of the nest. Go off and find more amazing mentors and coaches, as many as you can find, and learn from each and every one of them. So yeah, just to see people's growth that way, it's incredible. Like, I know through the journey that I've been going through, overused word, journey, very overused on social media in conversations like this, but I have come into contact with some of the most incredible coaches and mentors, Pete. I love each and every one of them, and I'm a little piece of each and every one of them. And there should be no limitation there. Just go and get into all their masterminds, get into as many of those communities and networks as you possibly can, because as we grow, we start to realize that the world of human potential, this industry, self-improvement, it's very small. And it's like the whole 6 degrees of separation thing. You really start to realize that that person does know this person and they know this person. The network becomes really, really small. So yeah, I want everyone to grow. I want them to mastermind with the best, it just makes me feel satisfied that I could be a little piece of that story that one day they can allude to. Joanie really helped me with this, creating this habit or forming this new thought pattern. Do you know what I mean? Just to be a piece of their story, that means everything.
No, it's powerful to to have that, as you say, in your life, and so much going on around you. Where do you go to recharge, or leisure and pleasure? What does that look like for you?
To recharge means, well, sleep is really, really important. And I do my best to get a good 8 hours sleep each night. And I know a lot of people who really want to change this setup in their lifestyle. They are burning the candle at both ends, going to bed late at night, getting up early in the morning, having broken sleep with children. A lot of people want to form a really good early morning ritual or routine, but that all starts with going to bed early. And that is a discipline. It's like I said, I used to stay up late and binge on TV. And I did that for many, many years, through my adolescent years and my 20s. And now I'm a wee bit more of a granny mush. I just love a nice wee cup of tea and, 10:30 in bed, lights out, good book, a little bit of a meditation. That to me is just the life of a rock star, and nobody can argue with that. But, that self-preservation from having a good night's sleep, drinking plenty of water, looking after your health, not just the diet of your mind, but what you're putting into your body, what we're eating. And again, always going to be a work in progress, because there are times I slip up as well, but it's definitely front of mind. It's something I take more seriously than maybe a lot of people, is just, how important it is to live a healthy, active lifestyle. And I know if a lot of people come to me and they're in a slump or they're stuck, when we start to talk about, their eating choices and stuff, when we change that up, that can really have a massive impact on, the other, leaning into the mental side of the work. So it all marries up. So what I eat, getting adequate sleep, water, but I also love a little trip to the spa, a massage, and just switching off, going to the seaside, walking by the ocean. That is the thing that makes me feel more connected than anything else, is just the power that comes from being in front of that big Atlantic Ocean. There's just something about it that words cannot describe. Put me in front of the ocean anywhere and I will love you forever. Anything to do with holistic therapies, things where I know people can share their gifts with me that are going to shift my energy. If I'm feeling I'm in a little bit of a lull or a rut, I will go and have a little session. There are a few people I go to for those kind of like energy sessions, massage, just anything that's nice. I think a lot of us ladies love a nice trip to the spa, getting our hair washed, nice curly blow dry, getting the nails done, all those nice little things. Eating out, okay, Pete, you can't stop me now, because there are so many lovely little things that I do to stay centered. But I think when it involves anything that is a guilty pleasure, learning to curb that, is a good practice too. So the wine, a glass rather than a bottle, would be a good option if you don't want to have a hazy week ahead. I think through my student years, I acquired the wisdom to know that, it's not wise to have a productive week set up and then have too many glasses of wine. So since having had babies, we don't really have much wine in this house anymore. Hangovers, wine, they don't mix. But just anything that involves being able to just switch off for that little while and enjoy life. It's all about having the correct balance in work and lifestyle. And I think when you're working for yourself as well, this is something that you have to be firm with your boundaries. And this takes practice as well. A lot of us can be yes people, but knowing, this is what I will do, this is what I will not do. Here are my boundaries. Here are when I make calls, here when I take calls, here's when I do my study, here's when I do my coaching. Just making sure that you plan your work and work your plan, but make time for fun in there as well. And in some cases, just, keeping the fun to a minimum if it's anything that's going to make you feel like, you're not showing up as your best self.
No, it's good. I mean, as you say, and even that sort of looking after your health and your physical well-being is really quite key. and so it is. Is there, is there certain times when you are more productive, you're in, more of a flow state? Is the times, when, are you aware of your energy levels, if that makes sense, when you are in your creative zones?
Yeah, and I think it's important to share this as well, to break what people would call as a taboo subject, women, hormones, talking about all that kind of thing. And a lot of the ladies watching this, I'm sure, will be able to relate. There are certain times in the month where we feel more productive than others. So for example, when it comes to that one time in the month, which, men, it's okay to talk about this, by the way. I'm sure the majority of you are living with women, so it's good that we understand each other. But there always comes a certain time in the month where a woman is maybe not feeling that she's performing at her highest standard. And at a time such as that, that's when you'll not see me doing a podcast interview. You'll not see me showing up live on Instagram, because that's the crying face could be on that day, Pete. It's just knowing the rhythm of your body and knowing at what point in time you're best fit to do a certain task. And I plot my work around my calendar, because hormones are a thing. It's best to work with your strengths. And there are certain times where you're going to be in a peak flow, and other times where you might be best just working on something a little less interesting that day. Just stay home and work on the boring stuff in your business that doesn't involve going out there into the world and doing a live interview. So yes, I'm in peak flow at certain times, and other times where I may be feeling that the law of rhythm is at play, because we're living with the laws of the universe here, and we're all rhythmic beings, and sometimes we're in better flow than others, men as well. And we're vibrational beings. We're picking up on each other's energy. When you notice that you're feeling that your energy is off, it might not be the day to plan going live in front of thousands of people. Maybe wait until you will be feeling like your wife is not going through that, so you're not picking up on that energy. Or for us ladies, plotting things around our hormonal cycle so that we can be at our best. Because yes, maybe perhaps some would argue that's a paradigm, Joanie, or that's limited thinking. You can just decide that day, it doesn't matter what my flow is like or what rhythm I'm in, just go out there and change the world anyway. Yeah, perhaps that's something that I might want to affirm a little bit more and just break free from that agreement. But it's, for me, it's quite satisfying to plan things out that way. And I know when I show up as my best self. And yeah, so I do work very much in line with how I feel my energy is and what kind of a rhythm it's in, whether I feel am I vibrating on a high level here, or am I going to go live in front of people and just bring the energy down? We don't want to do that. If we're going out there and we have important work to share, it's better that you pick a time where you're going to be on form.
Oh, I mean, totally makes sense, and it's like, I suppose a sports person, if they could get 1% better and wear a pair of shoes or put a hat in their head or whatever it is, they would do it. And yet, roughly 50% of the population or whatever else it is has these, menstrual cycles, whether men do or what the men have, I don't know, but, and why would you not lean into it? It's like, instead of seeing it as something that slows you down, it's saying, well, actually, if you can utilize the power of that's actually giving you a massive advantage. So
yeah, there are a lot of books written in and around the subject from a woman's perspective, but it is true for men as well. We all have our ebbs and flows in terms of our energy. And pilots, it's been said that pilots have been tested before they'll actually fly a plane to find out where they're at in terms of their energy and a rhythmic pattern that is suitable for flying. And if they're not on that level, or they're not in that kind of mindset and state of mind, they're not going to be allowed to fly the plane. So it's really important to check yourself and check your energy. And if you really have no choice, or if I have no choice and I have to, if I put myself in a position where I get to choose, but if it just happens that, an oversight has occurred and I'm like, oh no, I said I was going to do this thing, it involves public speaking, I'm maybe not going to be in my, best time of the month that month, but I've committed now and I'll see it through. I will be able to talk myself up to work things as planned, you know, to be on that, you can do it. It's just, I would rather come from a place of not having to do that and just being on form as I show up without the mental preparation or the anxiety of, you know, I'm not feeling my best today. But there's definitely a lesson. Like, I don't claim to know it all. I have very strong opinions. And the lesson in that is that's something that perhaps that's a saw that I can sharpen and that anybody can. You know, the power of prayer and meditation can lift people out of the darkest moment. You see singers before they go on stage, they're having a prayer, a moment of meditation, you know, they're blessing themselves, they're doing whatever people do because they want to get focused, centered, and aligned with something greater than them so they can go out and do their best. So yeah, there's a lot to be learned even from having this conversation. There's a lot for me to learn, there's a lot for all of us to learn.
Absolutely. Are you proud of yourself?
I am proud of myself. I'm proud of myself because I'm a risk taker and I never, ever let the fear of risk hold me back. And because I do say that, you know, I'm a bit of a square peg in a round hole, that I'm not just going to fit in with the status quo. I kind of look to others and just think, come on, take the risk. I want to normalize it. I want people to realize that, you know, faith is greater than fear, and they should never, ever let fear hold them back, because we're such powerful, powerful beings. And when we harbor faith over fear, we can crash through every scary decision, and we can do it in style. And when I explain to people and students of mine about the scenario of, you know, here's your goal and here are you, and here is the barrier of fear between you and where you want to go. Well, to crash through this wall to freedom is the most liberating thing that you could possibly do. But so many people just crash and burn. They come off the fear barrier and they become subservient to the mediocrity which they've been tolerating for so long, and just letting that just dictate their life. But if we crash through all limiting thoughts, beliefs, and situations and face the fear and take risks, that is the key to getting to your goal. I want this to be understood by so many people who don't understand it. And because I've always been a risk taker and I continue to just stretch myself and take more and more risks, I feel really proud of that, because I understand that I'm in the minority. A lot of people are so scared that they're frozen. They are paralyzed with fear. I want to show them this does not have to be the way it is. You can crash through this fear. And you took risks when you were a little baby. You weren't scared when you were crawling across, you know, the living room floor, and you could have cut yourself on a toy, a jagged corner of a toy. You could have, you know, fallen off the sofa when you were messing about, having fun with your brothers and sisters, but you didn't have that fear then. It's not very natural to have the levels of fear that we have when we come into the world completely fearless. So I'm not quite sure where this has come from in me, this tenacity and this unwillingness to just lie down and be dictated to by society. It's just not in me. And being able to share this with other people and help them rise up and become risk takers and achieve what's on the other side of fear, it gives me such a natural high. It just feels so amazing. So I'm proud of myself for helping people get out of their own way and get on the path to what it is they really want when they do that.
Well, beautiful. So tell us, if you were to describe your fire in the belly in 1 or 2 words, what would it be?
My fire in the belly. Another very, very deep question. I want to look back when I'm a really old lady and just say, I did it all. I did everything I said I was going to do, and just feel that sense of pride, which can only come from I went for it and I was unapologetic, and I put faith before fear every single time, and I took a whole heap of other people with me, and my children have learned from this, and they're living a life of freedom now where they're not caged in a closed mindset, which comes from the conditioning of what others think they should be, just in the knowing that I did my best in order to not just attain what it is I want in terms of my goals, but the spreading this all throughout the community that I'm building, starting with my home life, with my 2 children who are my everything. They can do whatever they want to do. As long as they are happy, I will share with them everything that I know for as long as they will listen to me. And I just want to leave the best impression on their lives so that they grow up knowing they are loved and that they have the information that they need to make informed decisions and grow into the kind of men they want to become. But I often think of what it'll be like to look back from the end of the goals that I want to achieve. And there are a couple of goals in particular which they mean the world to me. And in my mind, in my imagination, I see them as completed. So the middle work is happening. And it's just great to know that once you see it from the end, everything you need when you go at this with persistence, you draw it in when you keep up your self-study. So for me, that's really what it's about. It's about just living the best and fullest life possible.
That's more than 2 words, but I'll let you away with it.
Is that more than 2? Are you sure?
I love it. I love it. Give us a teaser. What's coming up for you? I mean, what's out there? What really is on the sort of big goal list, and sort of see if we can get it out into the universe.
Okay. Well, I've always loved to write, and creative writing is a passion of mine. Ever since I've been really, really small, I've been writing little stories, and it's something that I shelved for a long time. All the friends who know me best and closest family members say, when are we going to see your first novel? When is it going to happen? And I'm like, it's happened, it's happening, it's done. So this is a work in progress, and that's something which I'm really keen to share with the world, because it's about the person that I'm becoming on the way. And that has been something that I've had to ingrain within, to slow myself down in this pursuit of, we don't want to be chasing goals. We want to be appreciating the person that we become, because I know when it happens, and when I do see my creations in print and my creative writing and it being read by people and making an impact on the world, I want to be able to say I enjoyed the process. I enjoy the person that it took to bring this to fruition. So yeah, there are goals, and I'm working on them. And I'm also working on the fact that it's good to talk in open spaces with like-minded people like your community about this, because I'd imagine if they're on your podcast, we're all on the same wavelength here. We're all big thinkers with open minds and open hearts, and we want to be doing have more. But I wouldn't necessarily share this just with people outside of your podcast who might not understand. People on your podcast, listening to your podcast, they're elevated thinkers, so they can probably identify with the way I'm talking about this. We have to protect our goal to an extent and share this kind of information only with the people who we know will want to raise us up and see it come to fruition. Not everybody does, so I'm quite selective about who I share this kind of information with, but I have a funny feeling that when it does all come to pass, Pete, that we can celebrate and say, do you remember that time on your podcast we talked about this, and now it's happened. So yeah, I just had a bit of a premonition there. So I really felt like I wanted to share more in that, and I haven't been doing that lately. But I'm confident in sharing it because I know it's done.
That's beautiful. No, I genuinely appreciate you sharing and putting it out there. There's so much, and I know we've only scraped the surface as well. There's so much more, but got to be mindful of time. Tell us, remind us, where can people find you, follow you, hunt you down, track you, like you, all the above?
So most of the work that I do in terms of putting myself out there so people can find me is on Instagram. So you can get me at I am Joanie O'Hanlon, or Facebook, the same handle, I am Joanie O'Hanlon. So look me up there. You can see I've been putting stuff out there into the world about what it is I do. And just send me a message, and we can certainly talk about your big lofty goals, and you can dust them down, take them off the shelf, and start to make your moves towards them, because there's a difference in being interested in something and thinking that's a nice idea, if I could do that, then the next level up, which is to actually roll your sleeves up, or girlies, tie up your ponytail and start making big moves. It is the most epic and empowering feeling. So if you want to talk about that, I'm all ears. So you'll get me on Instagram or Facebook predominantly.
Love it. Is there a final message you'd like to leave with people?
The final message that I would like to leave with people is, just like we talked about at the start of the call, just to look to yourself, and at the risk of sounding corny, but it's true, I just really want you to look to yourself and see the little child that you once were, and understand that you are perfection. And I mean this with every fiber of my being. It actually makes me emotional when I talk like this, because there's so many people who are damaged, and you were born into the world perfect. I was born into the world perfect. We are still perfect. There's just been a lot of information put on us, and we didn't ask for it, but neither should we hold any resentment or feelings of anger towards the people who have passed on the information, our parents, caregivers, religious institution leaders, the education system. Just let all that go, because everybody is just doing their best with what they have been programmed to share. So if you just look to yourself after you've listened to this, after you've watched this, and just decide to see in the mirror a whole blank canvas, a whole new opportunity as a person, and realize that you are perfect and whole, and take risks just as that little baby who was fearless, and just make your mind up to look at life differently, see that you can be, do, and have anything. Forgive yourself of past mistakes. Let it all go. Let go any feelings of anger, resentment towards anybody who has wronged you, and practice looking at the world through this lens for a little while, and allow the miracles to flood in as you do this, because you're perfection. So just know that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Love it. Joanie, I know it won't be the last, but listen, for now, I thank you so much. I wish you all the best I know you have some really exciting things coming up. So thank you again. Thank you for coming on the show. Until the next time.
Thank you so much, Pete. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.